Hi, my name is Rina Fitriana, and this evening I'm going to make a presentation on the book I have read. It is titled New Digital Technology in Education Conceptualizing Professional Learning for Educators, written by Wan Ang. When we bring the concepts of classroom and technology, of course, what we have in our mind is the classroom filled with learners holding a mobile device or laptop in their hands. This kind of thing is also getting stronger in the last few years because some schools, especially private ones, include the purchase of laptop in their package when the new student enter their school. It has only been the case since the 2000s when ownership of a mobile device and internet access become more common. And what about before 2000s? Of course, technology was not regarded as it is today, and the perception of innovation was different. I remember that in 2000, when I was in the third grade of senior high school, Warnet, or we call it internet cafe, was still seldom, and people who can operate internet were only few. So, in many people's perception, only smart, educated people will be able to use it. In addition, the charge for internet was also very expensive. It started changing when I was in university. Maybe it happens because my university, of course, exists in a bigger city where technology use there every day. So I could find internet cafe easier, although the price also is was still pricey, and I could just rent the internet for making assignment. Honestly, I think reading this book is very interesting and also helping. Why? Because this book gives me, both as a student and lecturer, a new paradigm in learning utilizing technology. As a lecturer, of course, I am required to practice a Merdeka curriculum where technology is being intensively used. The use of the internet and many webs in it is a must. This is coupled with the change in campus teaching system also. Now it is digitalized and requires every lecturer to take advantage of it. So I think knowing more about the use of technology in learning, of course, will be much helpful for me, both as a student and also as a lecturer. This book focuses on the digital technology aspects of educational development. Although these technologies have been benefited in the classroom for a long time at this moment, there is still no clarity on how to make use of them. As an addition, there are teachers and lecturers, especially the senior ones, who are not used to using technology, and therefore the use of technology has its special challenges for senior teachers and lecturers. Setting off from this point of view, this book tries to touch upon the concerns that educators have while incorporating digital technologies into their practices in their classes. So, actually, the perspective and framework and proposes in her book are beneficial for researcher or for teacher of all subject at all levels. So I myself, as a lecturer, has found many advantages by reading this book, especially because in my campus we are now using Synthesa, an academic system that cover all parts of learning activities. So started from putting absent, giving materials and homework, as well as doing tests and giving students marks. It is done using internet website. As part of a campus support, the Wi-Fi network in campus are also quite good. It is fast, and also there is seldom internet interference. In the next slide, we found out that actually the outline of this book, it is divided into four parts. The first and the second chapter, it is included in the part one. The third, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth in the part two. Seven and eight is in are in the part three, and part four, it consists of chapter 9, which is the conclusion. There are two chapters in part one, and in these chapters, Ang presents the current situation of digital technology in learning or teaching environments. She starts off by stating how these technologies have evolved since Google was first introduced in 1998. Now, there is an abundance of available digital technologies that can be benefited in and outside the class, for instance, desktop, computer, and mobile device, and so on. However, in the last few years after the book's written, the development of internet continued growing more rapidly. This book was written in 2015 and it is already 2023, so the book has been written for 8 years. We know that actually recently many teachers and lecturers have used several websites to do the quiz and other practice in learning activities, and some students, even use artificial intelligence to make their assignment easier. So the growing of internet simply is an inevitable. In one side, of course, it is good because it can help students to learn independently. However, on the other side, there are also many websites that can give students shortcuts in doing their assignment, and therefore the mark of their assignment could be not reflect their true ability in the subject. Contrary to expectation, the plethora of choice in digital technologies, although most of them are available for free, it doesn't redound the educational environment. So, based on this fact, and address the reason for integrating digital technology into educational environment, technological changes in education, effect of technology use on learning, and impact of digital technologies on practice and persisting issues. As mentioned in the chapter, the literature regarding educational technologies suggests that digital technologies support learning through increasing learners' motivation, developing their mind, providing real life like experiences, creating a space where learners put what they learn into practice, and then promoting communication and collaboration, enabling research, and so on. However, these are not possible unless technology based activities are in accord with learning objective and non technology based activities. What teacher came across while incorporating technology into their teaching in the beginning of the 2000s still exists today. Although technology has improved beyond our imagination, it has not been applied into educational context successfully due to the barriers in administrative and individual level, because as the chapter suggests, related parties of digital technologies in educational context have not been convinced whether they provide any advantage in teaching or learning environments. Actually, in Indonesia itself, teaching practitioners also feel confused because although Merdeka curriculum that is prepare encourage the use of technology in learning, there is actually no definite reference to what percentage of learning can use technology, how the use of technology in school, whether devices such as laptops and smartphones are allowed, even provided by school, or must be brought by a student themselves, and so on, can be done. Not to mention that teachers and lecturers have different levels of mastery in technology, which are usually below their students who are already familiar with the use of technology. Well, actually, in the next chapters, there will be a part talking about students bringing their own cell phones because they need to integrate technology, and we will talk about it later in the next chapters. In chapter 2, it focuses on professional learning by keeping in mind that the success of a learner depends on the quality of the teacher. So this chapter focuses on the barriers at individual level as mentioned above, and provides a professional learning framework, which is it is a very useful guide for educators about how to find out recent digital technologies, how to design teaching and learning materials, how to experiment the planned pedagogy at their own pace, adopting characteristic of effective professional development and individual learning. Actually, this framework puts emphasis on the significance of the technical and pedagogical aspect of technology integration into teaching or learning practice, the development of educators' digital literacy, and deep learning throughout this process. This chapter paves the way for digitally literate educators and better learning outcomes through technology by giving specific examples that can be incorporated into teaching, such as Prancy, SurveyMonkey, YouTube, Skype, Inspiration, and so on. In the next slide, we go to chapter 3, which focuses on how learners use digital technologies, the reason underlying the use of these technologies, and the benefit of their integration into the educational context. Most learners from all age own a mobile device and use it for various purposes, such as entertainment, academic, and so on, and they spend considerable part of their time on social media. That is why it mostly focuses on social media throughout the chapter. As it is implied throughout the book, the chapter also emphasizes that technology integration into classroom is beneficial only when the purpose is clear. Teachers should be digitally competent enough to determine what is and what is not conveyed efficiently through technology. So, finally, Eng suggests that instead of making use of technology in the classroom all the time, it should benefit it less often, which would produce its better effect. So before carrying out teaching, the teacher must be able to arrange a series of activities that will be given to the student, including designing what parts will use technology and what parts will be carried out conventionally. So this might be a little different from many people's assumption. Actually, they think that learning using technology is imagined as learning that depends a lot on laptops or the like, but actually, and suggests that this book that learning involving in technology should stick to independent learning and focus on the material and learners, where technology is just one way to help students to understand the material and not the only way to learn. So once again, actually, the success of teaching using technology still depends on the teacher's skill, on the selecting material, on how to deliver the material, and it's more than just depending on their mastery of technology. In the chapter 4 presents the underlying theories of integrating digital technologies in educational context, namely behaviorism, constructivism, social constructivism, cognitivism, cognitive load theory, and so on. Each of these theories is analyzed in a way to justify technology use in education at both administrative and individual levels. So this chapter serves as a guide for educators to design technology integrated curricula to determine learning outcomes. In chapter 5, Ang touches upon the convenience that new digital technologies have brought in education. So, while chapter 2 states that technology and pedagogy depend on each other, this chapter focuses on how the former benefits the latter, and with the help of these technologies, try to ensure that teachers teach and learns better. Among these above mentioned convenience are increase in learning motivation, and then promoting higher order thinking skill and critical thinking, enabling learning at a self-determined pace, catering for multimodality. So the chapter introduces a wide array of specific educational technologies which can be used in and outside the class by both the teachers and the students. However, she also warns educators that embedding technology into education successfully requires digitally literate educator and learners. Educators should develop some criteria and be selective before making use of this technology. It also be kept in mind that technology and educational environment keep evolving. The innovation stated in this chapter might become obsolete someday. So actually, when we talk about limitation in technology, they are almost non-existent, including when we talk about its use in education. As an example, anyone can upload learning materials on internet. So it is not necessary that the uploader of learning materials is a teacher or lecturer or anyone who officially has education in that field. So for this reason, material obtained from the internet cannot actually be accounted for because the uploader is not necessarily a person who has knowledge in that matter. In chapter 6, which is the last chapter of part 2, uh, scrutinize the concept of digital literacy, which is the underpinning influence on successful use of educational technologies both in and out of the school context, and proposes a framework that demonstrate that there are other literacies such as critical literacies, multi-literacies, technical and operational literacies, and social emotional literacies to develop so as to become digitally literate. This chapter explains why digital literacy is significant, what it's composed of, and how it is developed, and state that technical, cognitive, and so on must also develop hand in hand to achieve digital literacy. And argues that in chapter that although young people are competent in using technology, educators should teach them to cognitive and social aspects of using it. On the other hand, although they are good at using technological device, they are incompetent in educational technologies, so they should be taught how to use them properly and efficiently. I personally agree with Eng's statement, who believe that mastering technology is a provision for surviving in today's life. It can obviously be understood for me because I think various kind of daily activities that are usually carried out conventionally, of course, can now carried out using technology. Let's just say ordering food, paying household bills for electricity, or paying telephone, internet, and so on. So there are also there are of course much things we can do using technology. In part 3, and discusses current trends in educational technology. Actually, there are two chapters in this part, which are chapter 7 and chapter 8. Chapter 7 of this book provides an insight into flipped classroom instruction, explaining its theoretical underpinnings, its effective application into classroom research and pedagogy regarding it, advantage and disadvantage of flipping the classroom, and at the end of the chapter and provides a sample case for a flipped classroom pedagogy. The chapter states that there is limited research in the literature regarding flipped classroom, and the findings have been mostly positive. In order to assess its effectiveness in depth, more data is required, of course. Therefore, the researcher interested in flipped classroom, this chapter provides a useful starting point. From what I have learned since joining the parent group on WE, in my experience, the flipped classroom in Indonesia has rarely been successful so far, especially when it is done in primary or secondary education. This may happen because the child does not yet have a strong desire to learn unless the family environment is a learning environment that makes the children accustomed to learning without parental supervision or coercion. So even in a university student environment, when I'm becoming a lecturer, I see that very few students who practice independent study before the material is given in the class. This may be because our students are not used to study on their own, even though currently learning material is very easy to get, either from the internet by searching independently or from textbooks that are available in the library, uh, and are usually given at the start of the lecture by the lecturer. They still have no willingness to learn by themselves. So actually, in my opinion, although this book has described on how the teacher or lecturer can do flip classroom, in reality, it is still quite hard to do it. The other chapter of part 3, which is chapter 8, focuses on the use of a mobile device in education, particularly bring your own device or BIOTs and personalized learning. As discussed in this chapter, learning occurs as a result of personal endeavors. So, depending on their previous knowledge, learning construct new knowledge differently. In order to cater for this, educators should assess learners' previous knowledge and prepare convenient strategies so they can provide various pathways for the learners. Therefore, they can control what, when, and at what pace to learn. In my opinion, this void is a bit difficult to do here among our students. Why? Because they're already familiar with the use of smart sport in their daily life. They have it since the very early age. Even some of them have already owned their own smartphone since they were in elementary school. But actually, it is very hard to direct them to use it in to use them in learning. Of course, there are times when they will be happy to use it in learning. For example, when they are trying to find answers to assignments they have to do. But once ago, I think this tends to lead more in a negative direction as previously demonstrated. So the conclusion is that giving the students their own smartphone and using it responsibly is, I think, is still a challenge for both teachers and parents. Uh, Meanwhile, it should be kept in mind that actually learners might experience increased cognitive load or become distracted by other function of mobile device. For example, social media. We can see that social media and such application can easily attract student attention and then distract them from their original focus on learning. Moreover, currently, social media also has so many interesting features that it is very difficult for a student to resist the temptation to play on it. In the final part, which is the fourth part and the final chapter, chapter 9, Ang argues that rapid development of educational technologies does not manifest itself in teaching or learning practice. They are obstacles to effective integration of technology into education, and unfortunately, these barriers are not different from the one existing nearly 20 years ago. Educators should be digitally literate, know how to benefit from a tool. Uh, to explain this interdependency between technology and pedagogy, and use the travel analogy. She also states that digital fluency among educators is very low because of a lack of professional development opportunities, underfunding, inadequate support for leadership, educator reluctance to allocate their time and energy, and lack of formal digital literacy agenda. Honestly, it is quite surprising when I read about the teachers' lectures, deficiencies in opportunities, and so on. I thought it only happens in Indonesia, but actually it also happened in other countries, even in developed countries. I refer to the origin of the author of this book, namely Sydney, Australia. However, this book was written like 8 years ago, so compared to the educational system in Indonesia at this moment, the system there must be better at this time. But it shows us that actually integrating technology into the education system and using it in the learning process is something that is learned, requires process and time, and this makes me optimistic that in the future, if all parties in Indonesian are firm and they are firm in their commitment, I mean, what is stated in the Merdeka curriculum, I believe will be ultimately achieved. In this chapter, it is also mentioned that through deep thinking and deep learning process, lesson plans should be prepared in a way to answer what content is appropriate for students to learn with the support of technology, which technologists do their best, and how would students achieve the learning outcomes by interacting with the technology integrated learning material. The chapters also argues that although use of technology among students is extremely common, it should only be used for teaching or learning when its value and purpose are clearly understood by them. Students need to be scaffolded by their teacher to benefit from educational technology. In the final paragraph of her book, Ang states that teachers who successfully integrate technology into his or her teaching are also good at teaching without technology. So technology integration is not a must, but the convenience it provides are undeniable. Once again, through the latest chapter, Ng emphasizes that basically the use of technology is only an aid in learning and not a learning goal. In this case, the presence of technology should be able to help both parties, teachers and lecturers, teacher or lecturers and student, and not make things difficult. I believe that this book is a reflection of Wan Ang's vast knowledge and experience on educational technology that she constructed through empirical and secondary data herself over the years. She presents how educational technology has evolved over time and its current position in today's educational context. However, it might be of use if she included some future aspects, emphasizing that technology and pedagogy are interdependent. She provides clear and purposeful frameworks and methods by explaining their theoretical underpinning and affordance, and through this, educators can incorporate in digital technologies into their classes. In the last slide, before references, I give also one biography. She's professor in technology enhanced teaching and learning and science education in the School of Education at the University of New South Wales, Australia. Her major research interest is the use of ICT, including Web 2.0 and mobile technologies in education. One has published widely in the areas of science education, gifted education, online learning at both school and tertiary levels, and the use of mobile technologies for learning. One has coordinated several nationally founded science and technology initiatives and works extensively with primary and secondary science teachers in professional learning courses. Besides one book, I use also two other references that comes from Clark Pearson. It is written by 2020 and also by Wilson Orenala and Mick. That was written on 2010. Okay, I think that is all the presentation that I can give. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good night.